We're going to move into the keynote portion of our program. We've got some great guests from Dubuque, Iowa, and we're really interested to hear their story of what's going on in Dubuque. So to bring up our guests, I'm going to introduce Scott Ferris. Scott's the principal with the Lakota Group, and they've just recently joined our team as our experts that are helping us analyze Kenosha's downtown and some of its opportunities. So Scott, if you'd come up and introduce our keynoters, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. My name is Scott Ferris, principal of the Lakota Group, and I feel a little bit somewhat foreshadowing here today in the sense that I'm representing KABA in the city of Kenosha to develop a master plan, a strategic plan for the downtown area. And while we are in the beginning of our process, we've gone through an extension we call phase one, get to know the community, state of the downtown, state of what's happening here, getting to know folks. We are very early in the process, but when I say foreshadowing, I say that because I'm here today to introduce two people we don't even know. One is Rick Dickinson, and Rick is the President and CEO of the Dubuque Development Corporation. The other gentleman is Michael Van Milligen, and he is the city manager for the city of Dubuque. What I do know about these gentlemen is I know what they've accomplished in the city of Dubuque. And as we've gone through the process for developing a strategic plan for Kenosha, we've used Dubuque as a reference point, or as a benchmark. And we're going to do that as we go through this process over the next couple of months, compare ourselves to other success stories. You're going to hear a remarkable story. I've experienced their story from the outside perspective, not only as my parents are residents of nearby Galena and use their community, I've also worked in their competitive markets. I've worked in other upper Mississippi River cities that they compete with. And I can tell you firsthand, it's a spectacular story. It's a story of rebuilding a community from the ground up. It's a story of a positive spirit, and it's one that I hope to be sharing here, along with KABA and everybody else in the next year and in the coming years. So without further ado, I know they've got a good story to tell us, we're going to bring up Mike first. Thank you very much.
Scott, thanks for that nice introduction. And Todd, thank you so much for inviting us to be here today. I understand that was a wonderful tribute to you, and I have to tell you, I was impressed that you got two of your daughters to come with you today. I was reading your annual report as I was sitting there, and one of your comments is a vibrant and thriving downtown will greatly enhance the image of the community and support our economic and talent development initiatives. And I'll tell you about a little bit of personal experience with that I can tell you I agree with it, developing your talent initiatives. I moved two of my children in the last 3 months to new jobs, one in Chicago and one in St. Paul, Minnesota. And they both picked out their own apartment. We didn't do that for them. And I moved both of them into renovated warehouses. So I hear so much about that being popular with young people. I know it is. I am currently reading the book, That Used to Be Us, How America Fell Behind in the World and How We Can Come Back, by Michael Mandelbaum and Thomas Friedman. In the book, they say there is an old business adage, you win in the turns. They describe this as being when there are big shifts in the marketplace, when the best companies gain market share and put distance between themselves and competitors because they have the vision and flexibility to spot tectonic change and leap ahead when it occurs. These are businesses that have a formula for success, while others are simply overwhelmed. I would suggest that Mayor Roy Buell and the Dubuque City Council, working with others, have developed Dubuque into just such a business. Over the last 20 years, Dubuque has created over 900 acres of industrial parks, built 4 4-lane highway connections to the outside world, and had over $500 million in investment in our downtown. Dubuque has gone from 33,600 jobs in 1983 to 55,500 jobs in 2011. With 3% of the population of the state of Iowa, Dubuque businesses created 12% of the new jobs in the state in 2010 and again in 2011, and almost 9% of the new jobs in the state over the last 20 years. Everyone wants to know, how did you land IBM and 1,300 new jobs with an annual payroll of $60 million? Well, I don't know if you'll like the answer. It took 30 years of hard work by everyone in town. We did not find out until October of 2008 that IBM had selected Dubuque as one of 6 finalists in the United States for a new global services delivery center. But the work to land IBM began in 1984, as Dubuque was mired in the last Great Recession. Dubuque had 24% unemployment, the highest in the country. In the 1980s, Dubuque lost almost 10% of its population. Then the business community, government, and labor decided they needed to learn to work together, and they formed the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. The organization was given the task to work to bring back the Dubuque economy. When current president and CEO Rick Dickinson, who of course you're going to hear from in a minute, started in 1995, the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation had a $180,000 annual budget and 3 employees. Today, GDDC has a almost $2 million budget and 9 employees. But most importantly, GDDC has a 40-member board of directors with representatives from private business, government, not-for-profits, and organized labor. The source of the money to operate GDDC is all volunteer donations, with 2/3 coming from the private sector and 1/3 coming from the public sector. When I started as city manager with the city of Dubuque in 1993, the first thing I did when I walked into my office was to look for the community's comprehensive plan. Much to my shock, it was dated September 1936. In Alice in Wonderland, when Alice reached the fork in the road, she asked the Cheshire Cat, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" "That depends a good deal on where you want to get to," said the cat. "I don't much care where," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter much which way you go," said the cat. And I would suggest that is what happened to Dubuque in the 1980s. By 1995, the city had a comprehensive plan put together in a process that began in 1990, involving thousands of citizens, that is now updated every 5 years. The city also has a riverfront master plan, a downtown master plan, an historic Millwork District master plan, and a Washington neighborhood redevelopment strategy. Every year, the mayor and city council get together and conduct a 2-day strategic planning process to select their 5-year goals and their annual priorities that will best get the community on the road to achieving those 5-year goals. In 2005, the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce and the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque conducted a year-long process involving thousands of citizens called Envision 2010. They identified the top 10 things the community wanted to see happen by 2010, and most of those have been accomplished or are well underway. Mayor Roy Buell, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation President and CEO Rick Dickinson, and Community Foundation and Greater Dubuque President and CEO Nancy Van Milligen are asked to speak all over the country. One community that had a standing room only crowd had not one elected official or representative of organized labor in the audience. Let's just say they have a long way to go. IBM said they picked Dubuque as one of 6 finalists because Dubuque had a cost of living that was conducive to their success and access to a workforce with 304,000 college students within 100 miles. Also, the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation had a plan in place of how to access that workforce. They said Dubuque was selected from the 6 finalist communities because of Dubuque's philosophy on sustainability called Sustainable Dubuque that matched so well their corporate philosophy to create a smarter planet. And finally, they said they were impressed with the strength of the existing public-private partnerships. In a few short months during the courtship of IBM, GDDC was able to bring together all 9 local banks and credit unions to provide $45 million in financing to acquire and renovate the largest office building in downtown Dubuque, a 9-story, 255,000 square foot building that's on the National Historic Register, that is now a Platinum LEED certified building. To facilitate this financing, the city of Dubuque provided a $25 million loan guarantee. GDDC was able to bring together 7 institutions of higher learning to host each of the 3 IBM site selection visits. In addition to the building financing, GDDC was able to offer a $50 million incentive package that is mostly based on IBM performance, where if the dollars are not created by new IBM economic impact, like property tax rebates and a portion of their payroll taxes refunded, IBM does not get the money. So there were very few dollars used that would have not been there if IBM was not there. You will see from the IBM timeline in the handouts, and by the way, when you leave, there are handouts on the table just to your left out the door. You'll see from those handouts that the first contact with the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation about the possibility of the 1,300 new jobs in the city of Dubuque was on July 1st, 2008. IBM actually made the formal announcement that they selected Dubuque in January of 2009. By July 1st of 2009, so less than 6 months later, the 255,000 square foot building had been acquired by a local not-for-profit, a gut rehab was completed, and IBM had their first 350 employees on the job in that building. But IBM is only part of the story. In the late 1990s, you could have shot a cannon off in our downtown on any evening or weekend and not hit anything or anyone. A group of property owners came to the city and said they needed some help. They believed there needed to be some city financial incentives for rehabilitation, some parking needed to be created, and some uncooperative property owners needed to be forced to maintain their buildings. The city council budgeted to partner on a master plan. In the master planning process, it was identified that there were a few property owners where the city would need to either acquire their buildings or do major building code enforcement. The final plan developed by Dubuque Main Street and the property owners said the city would come in and inspect every building in the oldest part of the downtown, even if there had to be a court order issued from an administrative search warrant for the city to get in. The city inspected 52 structures and began enforcement action. The city acquired an old hotel that was determined unable to be saved and then demolished the building, selling the site to a private developer. The developer had an agreement with the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, where if a building was built there, they would buy part of it as a condominium arrangement. The private developer took a 100-year-old photo of the hotel and built a new replica building. The city built a parking ramp right behind the building site and attached it to a patio on the back of the building. The city also provided property tax rebates and other financial assistance for the project. To encourage other development, the city created a loan pool that provides $300,000 per project at low interest rates and between 10 to 15 years of property tax rebates. The city also provides grants for facade improvements, architectural expenses, and the expenses to help put together the financing packages. The city then spent millions of dollars to open up the Town Clock pedestrian plaza and expand the size of another existing parking ramp. Since then, the city has built a third parking ramp as part of the IBM project, and construction will start on a fourth parking ramp later this year. Dubuque has invested heavily in its future. That fits well with Sustainable Dubuque, which focuses on environmental, ecological integrity, social cultural vibrancy, and economic prosperity. Dubuque has been recognized as the following: one of just 26 U.S. cities that have seen the job market recover to pre-recession levels, 7th in the nation in Forbes' annual Best Small Places, one of the 100 best communities for young people by America's Promise Alliance, one of the top 10 smartest cities on the planet by Fast Company magazine, one of the 7 most connected cities in the world by Connected World magazine, the best small city to raise a family by Forbes magazine, and the most livable small city in the United States by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. In the movie Kung Fu Panda, and Stan, I think you can relate to this, having 6 grandchildren, I now watch these kinds of movies. In the movie Kung Fu Panda, when the father explains to Panda the secret ingredient in his very popular soup, he has to admit that there is no secret ingredient. He just leads others to believe that one exists. Well, that is the case in successful public-private partnerships. There is no secret. We were recently giving a community tour of Dubuque to the U.S. Department of Transportation Cabinet Secretary Ray LaHood, U.S. Housing and Urban Development Cabinet Secretary Sean Donovan, and U.S. EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson as they were conducting a national Livable Communities tour. I was asked by Secretary LaHood to tell the participants in less than 30 seconds what was the secret to Dubuque's success. I responded, it is based on planning, partnerships, and people, with people broken down into two categories, leadership and execution. I don't think you have to be a Green Bay Packer fan, even though I'm sure most of you are, to respect the words of their famous coach, Vince Lombardi. It would do us well to heed his words, and I quote, "Success is like anything worthwhile, it has a price. You have to pay the price to win, and you have to pay the price to get to the point where success is possible. Most importantly, you must pay the price to stay there," close quote. And with that, you're going to get to hear from Rick Dickinson right now.